Welcome to another edition of Hot Hoops. My name is Josh Silverman. I'm joined alongside women's basketball beat reporter Bryan Schwartz. Bryan, how are you today?
Doing great, Josh.
Bryan, let's jump right into it. The Quinnipiac women's basketball team beat in-conference foes the Siena Saints 73-47 on Saturday. It was a dominant game in their home court. However, they came back home on Tuesday and fell to Michigan State 71-54. What makes this team so dominant, in conference?
In conference, I think that obviously they came in ranked preseason as the best team in the MAC. So they have the most depth, and that's what's really proven them to beat the best team. They have, from fifth-year senior Adelie Martucci to freshman Vanessa Udoji, they have talent up
She started against Michigan State.
Right.
Well, we'll get to that. But
right. And they have talent up and down the roster, which is really just sensational for them. And that's why they're playing so well. Against St. Peter's, they had 9 players play 15-plus minutes. Against Siena, they had 10 with 14-plus minutes. You don't see that from many teams up and down the MAC. And that's what's really good about Quinnipiac so far.
So who was the MVP for the Bobcats in their opening weekend?
No doubt, Vanessa Udoji, the freshman guard. She was so impressive. She led the team in points against St. Peter's with 16, had 13 against Siena. So it's good to see the freshman getting a lot of playing time. She's getting a lot of good floor minutes, and she's showing how deep this team is, and that's really essential in the MAC play.
You mentioned it, Bryan. They got back Jen Fay, who's having an amazing year. She's come back from injury. She redshirted, so she's a sophomore. Technically, it's amazing what this team can do. But Quinnipiac lost to Michigan State Tuesday night. The Bobcats shot below 30% from the field in a game that could have been closer. Bryan, what was your first takeaway?
First takeaway was they started out really flat. They came out to a season-best crowd, 1,300 people. It was a rocking atmosphere there at TD Bank Sports Center for probably the first time this year. And they really just didn't start off very well, only 14 points in the first half. Michigan State played a 3-2 zone and a full court press in the first half that Quinnipiac just wasn't able to recover from. They couldn't get into good offensive sets. When they did get open shots, they weren't hitting them. They started off 1 of 13 from the three-point line in the first half, and they just couldn't get anything going. Michigan State went on an 18-1 run in the first half. They really struggled there.
Bryan, we have footage we'll show you right now. Quinnipiac took on Michigan State on Tuesday night. We'll start off with the Bobcats on offense. We mentioned they didn't play well. This is in the first half. She passed it to Erin McClure, who makes her shot. It was one of the few that the Bobcats made in the first half. They are on offense against Sarah Schuhen. She has not had the best season. She misses the three-pointer. The Bobcats shot a lot of threes throughout the game. And then Michigan State, they went on runs in the first half. You mentioned it. Here they are making a three-pointer. You can just really see why they are, a powerhouse. But here, the Bobcats, just more examples of them not being able to finish, even though Adelie Martucci, she had a good game, in terms of points, but they just got to shoot better. Against the best teams, you got to play up to their level and not down to them. But here they are. They got some offense going in the second half. Adelie Martucci, she finished with 17 points. That was a good basket there. Now Paula Charbonnet is going to throw it. Jim Morgan-Manso hits the three. It wasn't enough. The Bobcats lost 71-54. Here they are shaking hands. Great sportsmanship. You know what? They just didn't do enough to win the game.
They didn't do enough to win the game, but I did like that in the second half. They seemed to play a little bit more aggressive. They started hitting more shots. Adelie Martucci had a really good second half. She shot the three ball well. They cut it to 10 a few times, Quinnipiac, and it was weird because Trisha Fabry would not call a timeout when they kept getting it to 10. I was sitting next to another women's basketball beat reporter, Maury Hirschgord, and he kept telling me, why don't they call a timeout? Why don't they call a timeout? And it was just odd that they wouldn't call a timeout to try to get another stop and get another bucket.
It was, Bryan, they finished with 3 timeouts. Obviously Trish Fabry has an amazing resume. She's been MAC Coach of the Year the past 2 years, but, she had her reasons. So where do the Bobcats go from here? They play Hartford at Hartford on Saturday?
They play at Hartford on Saturday, and that should probably be a win for them. Hartford is not up to their standards as far as talent on the roster. But overall, playing against Michigan State, they've played so well in the second half that I think they have a lot to build off of. Michigan State come in number 22 nationally ranked in the country, according to USA Today. So although they struggled in the first half, Michigan State is a very good team. They were able to stop Tori Jankoska in the second half, who happens to be the number 5th leading scorer in the nation. She was really, really good coming into this game. She had a great first half. But in the second half, Adelie Martucci's defense on her was outstanding. They were able to really stop her, really control the rhythm of the second half. I have a stat for you.
A Schwartz bomb.
A Schwartz bomb. Quinnipiac ended up outscoring Michigan State 48-46 within the final 23 minutes of the game.
So do you see this as a moral victory, or, because they really didn't play well in the first half. In the second half, it kind of looked like they could compete on a better day, because we've seen this team shoot lights out. I saw it last year. They play Michigan State next year. Do you think that could be a win? It's in Michigan State, though.
Yeah, it's going to be tough traveling to East Lansing there. But, after the game, Adelie Martucci said they don't take moral victories. They came into this game looking for a win, and that's what they were trying to do. This Quinnipiac women's basketball team is now ready to win and ready to play against these big-time teams. Obviously, it didn't work out, but we'll see what happens next year.
Bryan, that's all the time we have. Thank you for joining us. That's all the time we have for women's basketball. But when we come back, men's basketball will be reported. Dylan Fearon will join the desk to break down the men's basketball conference play. Don't go anywhere.
It's 9:30 Eastern, and you know what that means. Sports Pause is on the air.
Ball played up the middle. Iman Whalen with a little cheat off the pipe.
Preseason just boils down to going after another national championship and not necessarily focusing on the one before.
MJ, it is time for our favorite part of the show. It's the top 5 plays of the week, brought to you by B&D Deli, home of the Q-Dog.
Let's talk about the first play you want to break down.
Yeah, let's break it down right away.
But the one name I'm going to throw out there is a freshman, Mika Maples.
Coming up on hashtag that. We are your source for Quinnipiac's entertainment news. All this and more.
Coming up on the Q30 Newscast.
Hello, Quinnipiac hockey fans, and welcome to the Neutral Zone.
Definitely St. Lawrence, and I think you're going to see the test coming up real soon.
They might be having a bit of an adjustment issue without that CBS line, but don't count them out.
At High Point Solutions Arena in Game 2 of Quinnipiac vs. Northeastern Series.
Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us. I'm joined alongside Dylan Fearon. Dylan, how are you today?
It's good to be here, Josh. Always a pleasure.
Dylan, let's get right into it. The Quinnipiac men's basketball team fell to Monmouth 91-72, but turned around against Marist as they won the game 77-63. Last night, they dominated Hartford, putting up 99 points, so close to 100, to Hartford's only 79. So let's start with Monmouth. Was the loss disappointing coming off their weekend in Orlando?
I wouldn't say disappointing. I mean, Monmouth's the MAC regular season champions, defending champions. Yes, they played well in Orlando, but I wouldn't call it disappointing. I call it a hangover, a little bit of a hangover, right? They played really, really well against some very good teams in Orlando. You're going to against Monmouth at home. They're confident. They're playing loose basketball. They looked really, really good in Florida. So you think, they can compete with Monmouth for a little bit. I'd say about 25 to 28 minutes. That was my prediction, that they could compete with Monmouth. And you're looking at Hartford down 11, and it wasn't disappointing, but it was a bit of a hangover. Monmouth has some tremendous guards. They have Justin Robinson, the best player in the MAC. Jelani Hornby, Micah Seaborn can really shoot the basketball. And you can't forget about Colin Stewart, who dominated Quinnipiac all night long. Plus Chris Brady, who's 6'10", 250 pounds, and no one had any answer for him when he touched the ball inside. So Monmouth brought everyone back from last year's team that won the regular season in the MAC. It was expected that Monmouth would beat Quinnipiac. I don't think there were many people that expected Quinnipiac to win this basketball game. So no, I wouldn't call it disappointment, but it was a bit of a hangover because I expected more from Quinnipiac. If you look, the game was won in 2 places. The 3-point line, where Monmouth had 14 threes and Quinnipiac had 7, so that's 21 points if you do the math, and Monmouth won by 19. And it was also won with fast break points. Monmouth had 17 fast break points. Quinnipiac had 0. That's where the game was won, because Quinnipiac, in terms of the free throw line, had an advantage over Monmouth, and it only turned the ball over 2 more times than the Hawks. So really, the game was won at beyond the arc and with fast break points.
So Reggie Oliver only played 11 minutes. Tom Moore cited he was ill and he didn't want to push him too hard. Do you think that affected the outcome?
No, I do not. I don't think if Reggie Oliver had played the entire game, I still think Monmouth would have won that basketball game. Yes, he hits a three and then he comes out and returns and then comes out again and doesn't come back. But Monmouth's guards are just too good. And I think Mikey Dixon on Quinnipiac had a really solid game for a freshman going up against guys like Justin Robinson and Jelon Hornbeek and Micah Seaborn. I think if Reggie Oliver played that game, Monmouth still would have probably won by 19 points. I think Mikey Dixon played well. I think Peter Kiss played well instead of Reggie Oliver, who would have gotten those minutes. But I think no. I don't think it would have made that much of a difference. I think Monmouth was just such a fantastic team. They should win the MAC almost easily, just the way teams like Siena and Iona have been playing. But no, Monmouth had that game.
All right, our two other men's basketball beat reporters, Maury Hirschgordon and Chris Stacey, broke down the rest of the game at the court.
Coming off its first win against Indiana State, the Quinnipiac men's basketball team took on Monmouth in the first MAC game this season. It was a 91-72 loss. My name is Chris Stacey, alongside men's basketball beat reporter Maury Hirschgordon. And Maury, story of this game has to be Monmouth's offense, and specifically their offensive transition game. What do you have for us there?
Chris, you look at the final stat sheet. 17 points for Monmouth on the fast break. Quinnipiac, goose egg. A lot of that has to do with Colin Stewart. Just a tremendous job. Really made his minutes count. He was 6 for 6 from the floor, 5 triples. He didn't miss one from beyond the arc. It seemed like every time Monmouth was pushing the ball down the court, he was going to hit one, whether it was 5-on-5 or 4-on-5, because one of the times Monmouth came down, Justin Robinson had lost his shoe. He was on the opposite side of the court. Monmouth kept playing, didn't call a timeout, didn't slow the ball down so that Robinson could come up, and Stewart finds himself on the left wing and buries one of his 5 triples.
Well, for the first half, it looked like Quinnipiac was going to be in this game. There was going to be a competitive game. At halftime, they only trailed by 11. But right out of the second half, Monmouth had an offensive explosion, it felt like. Can you tell us more about that?
They did. Monmouth comes out, and one thing that King Rice does with his team, since he has so many seniors and so much experience, is he just lets them play ball. He doesn't set up many plays. Monmouth didn't run its first half set until Quinnipiac went to the 2-3, went back to it for the second time. Monmouth opened up that second half 4 of 6 from the field. Once Quinnipiac went 2-3, they slowed the game down a little bit. Monmouth set up a little set, and they get, a big man or a guard slashing down the middle of the lane, or, coming in from the wing, extends the lead. It's up to 17. King Rice takes out his starting 5 for the majority of the second half.
Great insight. Thank you guys. Now back to the desk talking Marist. Quinnipiac got its first conference victory against Marist. Was the defense the difference in the game?
Yeah, I'd say so. Only 63 points. Marist has one of the best scorers in the MAC in Khalid Hart. He got his 18 points. Ryan Funk also 23 points. A really solid night. He's like their 4th scorer. He's not really a primary guy. But Quinnipiac was able to handle Marist's 2nd and 3rd guys, which I think is the key to winning basketball games. It's going to be hard to stop the primary threat. It really is. But if you can stop the 2nd and 3rd guys, you have a real good shot at winning. And those two, the 2nd and 3rd guys, are Brian Parker and Isaiah Lamb. They can only combine for 7 points and 6 turnovers. I mean, Quinnipiac diving for loose balls, playing tremendous defense, enthusiastic, confident. And Chase Daniels, who isn't really the best defensive player in the world, had 4 steals to go along with the 17 points. I think the defense was big. Quinnipiac's offense showed up like they have all season, 77 points. And they handled Marist pretty well, except for that small run to start the second half. But for the most part, the defense was fantastic.
You mentioned Chase Daniels. Was he the offensive leader in the game?
In this particular game, yes, 17 points. Marist bigs are not very good. They're small. Khalid Hart, Brian Parker, Isaiah Lamb are all guards. Those are their primary threats offensively. Yes, Chase Daniels is very good at that game. In terms of the offensive threat through the entire season, it's really not going to go through him. It's going to go through guys like Danny Harris, if he can get it together, who got it together against Hartford. And then, of course, Peter Kiss and Mikey Dixon, who are 2 fantastic freshmen for this program so far. So it's them, it's Danny Harris. Chase Daniels is really not that primary threat offensively, but when he gets the ball inside, he's going to work, and he's expected to put the basketball in the hoop.
Quinnipiac beat out-of-conference foes Hartford last night. They beat them 99-79. In the postgame, Chris Stacey asked, were you upset you didn't reach 100? They were like, of course, they want to reach 100. Sure. That was the players, not Tom Moore. Tom Moore said he'd be happy to win 80-79.
Yeah.
How good was the offense? They shot 50% from 3. What was the difference?
Well, the offense is finally clicking. And it's clicked throughout, the entire season. Their problem last year was they couldn't create open shots. They had some offensive threats, guys like Giovanni McLean, James Ford, but they just couldn't create open shots for those guys. This year, they're doing a much better job creating those shots for guys like Peter Kiss, Mikey Dixon, even Danny Harris, who played really well against Hartford. They're finally creating those open looks, and it's their 8th game as a team. You have to remember, this team lost 6 guys from a year ago that only won 9 games. So you're expecting to come in and not really do too well. But these 6 new guys, along with the rest of the guys that returned, have finally started clicking in their 8th game. And you're playing a non-conference game at home. It's loose. You're talking about a Wednesday night. They're confident. They're going in pretty loose, and they played very, very well.
Thank you, Dylan. That's all the time we have for Hot Hoops this week. Make sure you're following us on Twitter. I'm at Josh M. Silverman. He's at Dylan Fearon _ at the end of that. Make sure you go to our website at www.q30television.com to follow all of our great content, and have a great holiday.